Shah Sahib has very kindly said that he cannot hear us. Can please somebody from the team check with Mazuddin Shah if he can hear me or not, so that I can start forthwith. Amar Ahmed Sahib can hear me, but Shah Sahib cannot hear me. Daniel and Ali Shan, please check if he can hear me or not. Give me a go ahead so that I can start straight away. I welcome Aisha Aslam, and Aisha Aslam is also saying that the voice is not clear. We need to solve this problem before we can start. Thank you, Aisha, for your feedback, and Mazuddin Shah also for your feedback. Is it better now? Is it better now, please? Yes. What about others? Aisha Aslam and Mazuddin Shah, can you hear me better now? I will be grateful for your feedback so that I can straight away start. Okay, Aisha Aslam also says it is clear now. Mazuddin Shah Sahab, any feedback from you, sir? Okay, Amar Sahab says loud and clear. Aisha Aslam says yes, but I have not heard anything from Mazuddin Shah, and I'm assuming that the voice is clear. I once again welcome you on this very specialized training. I always, Zishan Heather also says it is clear. Zishan Heather Sahab is from Dubai, I believe. Wonderful. So let me begin by saying that this workplace harassment bit is an important topic, because with the COVID and everything, and even before the COVID actually, it is no longer possible. Let me make this very careful statement as I start. It is not possible to have a workplace without diversity. And if it is not possible to have a workplace without diversity, it is obviously not possible, therefore, building on the assumption, to have a workplace without harassment. So before I go any further, I would like to hear from my participants here, may God bless you, as to how do you envisage workplace harassment? Anybody can speak. Anybody can speak in whatever language you want to. You could speak in Urdu. For international participants, I could actually translate in English. So please come forth with your comments on workplace harassment. What do you think is workplace harassment? I will clap so that you're all alive and well. Who wants to speak, please? Go ahead. Who wants to tell me what, in your opinion, is workplace harassment? Anybody, please? Zishan. Please, Zishan, go ahead. Zishan, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum ji. For me, workplace harassment is basically making the overall work environment uncomfortable for the other party, be it our subordinates or colleagues or even bosses. You never know.
Absolutely, Zishan sir. Thank you very much for your comment. But an opening comment is an important comment, because then everybody can chip in. So Zishan sir has said workplace harassment makes everybody uncomfortable. Well, if that is the entire argument, if you're going to have diversity, you will have to appreciate everybody. And if you will not appreciate, you will resort to workplace harassment. So is there anybody who would like to chip in, please, before I go to the next slide? Because that is important, and it's probably the central part of this whole presentation. Anybody, Amar Saab, Mazuddin Saab, anybody, anything, a comment, a light comment, a heavy comment, a short comment, a long comment. Any comment, please? Well, obviously it is not compulsory, but you could always pitch it. If you want to pitch it, please. Anybody who would like to say anything about workplace harassment, Zishan Saab has opened the account by saying, if you make the environment uncomfortable, you're going to have problems and you're going to probably start moving towards workplace harassment. And so, Aisha Aslam, Aisha, please go ahead.
Like sir, our teachers also make environment uncomfortable for us, but it is for our own good. But sometimes some people make the environment uncomfortable just for their own benefit. So I think that this is harassment.
Okay, Aisha Aslam has come up with a great point. She said at times, from a if you talk from a teaching perspective or a university perspective, at times, there is stress in the classroom, blah blah blah, which is fine. But this is a wonderful point, as Aisha has said. At times, people would resort to certain actions so that they could derive their own benefit from it, own benefits. And that's a wonderful point from Aisha Aslam. Wonderful, wonderful. You see, I have to tell you one thing. This is not a kind of if you wanted to make a kind of a presentation, I could do that. But this is more of a kind of a talky kind of a session. You have to talk for me to be able to pull up my adrenaline and so that I could move forward. And this is wonderful. And there's a wonderful comment that I would like to read out from Amar Ahmed. He says, workplace harassment creates non-professional behavior which is not suited for a workplace. Excellent comment, Amar Saab. But bilkul theek hai, I completely agree with it. Workplace harassment will ultimately lead to non-professionalism. And that's a wonderful comment by Amar Saab. Thank you, sir. If you don't want to speak, you can always write something down and I will be the first one to catch that comment. It tends to breed non-professionalism. And if I could add to what Amar Saab has said, that non-professionalism will ultimately translate itself into low productivity. That's a great point. I would add to what Amar Saab said, it will lead to low productivity, and that will, from my 30 years of experience, I can tell you that will kill the organization. So any other comments? Before I move forward, because I'm going to place before you the real story of a very honorable judge of the Supreme Court of the United States. There's a movie on her life. The person is Ruth Ginsburg. And the movie is known as, and you might have actually seen it. If you have, please enjoy these selected clips. The movie is named as On the Basis of Sex. I think my argument that I would like to make, if there are any other arguments, actually, Mazharuddin Saab has not yet spoken. I'm sure in time, when he gets comfortable with this environment, he will speak. But the sense that I get from the comments, the three comments that I've had, one is obviously that when you have workplace harassment, you tend to have an uncomfortable environment. This was Zishan Saab. And then Aisha Aslam came up with this great idea that workplace and harassment is at times done by people who want to have their own benefits. And then Amar Saab said, but actually what workplace and harassment is going to do is actually it's going to make the environment non-professional. And I added to that non-professional by saying, well, actually, non-professionalism is bound to lead to low productivity. So that having been said, my core argument for this workshop that I bring to you from the platform of Aspire Training and Consulting Pakistan is workplace harassment is a derivative of inculcating diversity into your organizations. And may I please present this point of view with an international market growing exponentially, with local companies going international, with MNCs going all the way across the globe, it is not possible to avoid diversity. So if you're going to have diversity, you need to understand that you will have to plan for workplace harassment, because that is going to be a natural consequence of diversity, and diversity you cannot avoid. So with this small introduction, please allow me to introduce you to the Honorable late Justice of the Supreme Court of the US, Miss Ruth Ginsburg. But before, so how are we going to do it? Centrally from here, we are going to play, I've selected 7 or 8 clips. Centrally from here, we are going to play each clip. I would like you to comment on those clips. All that I want you to tell me is, what do you think in a particular clip Ruth Ginsburg is doing? And that is all the feedback that I want from you. And once the clips are done, we are then going to actually link the movie to our model of workplace harassment that will more be of a talky thing, me speaking to you. But before I can do that, in order to keep you comfortable, I would like you to speak to me. So let's actually have a team aspire. Let's actually have the first clip on workplace harassment from Ruth Ginsburg. Please go ahead. Let's have the first clip, please. Let's have the first clip kindly. Let's have the first clip, please. No problem, G. Technology across countries, across cities is going to cause problem. But let's have the first clip. Let's have the first clip. G, I'm waiting for the first clip. Let's have it with full sound so that people can hear it. G. The clip, please. G. The first clip, here it is. Can I have sound on this, please? If I was in that court of law, I would be very happy. I would have been honored to hear Mrs. Ginsburg say what she said. And before you say anything, I just want to just one sentence from this glorious, eloquent speech of Mrs. Ginsburg, which is, she says, we want you to protect the right of the country to change. What an excellent, excellent, excellent sentiment. Excellent, excellent sentiment. So this is the comment, I think, from Zishan Haider. Zishan seems to have left, but that's not an issue. But he's given a long kind of a, introduction to himself, and I know him, but who would like to comment? I think because I need to conclude now by now doing the traditional stuff, the lecturing stuff for the next 20 minutes. So who would like to contribute? Please contribute. Who would like to contribute? Who would like to contribute? I mean, the lady is absolutely liquid. Who would like to? Amar sir. Amar sir, please come in, sir. Please come in. Before I go into this traditional, traditional bit on lecturing and saying, well, these are the frameworks of workplace harassment. Go ahead, Amar sir, please. All ears, sir. All ears.
Thank you very much, sir. Just wanted to comment that initially when she started her argument, she was very connected to her logical conclusions and logical perspectives. But then in the second half, when she started to appeal to the emotions of the judge initially, and then started the relating it to the historical perspectives, they were ready to listen to her. So in any conversation or argument, there is both ways to argue the case. There is a logical perspective and there is emotional perspective, so you have to keep a balance of both to engage the audience. And that's what I got from the
absolutely, Amar, absolutely. I think it is so well said what you said, but I think there's also not only, as you said, there's a logical part to what she was saying. There was an emotional part to what she was saying, and just to add to what you were saying, in the beginning you could feel that she was more tentative, and the reason for being so tentative, as you will watch the movie, the reason for being tentative was the issue that this was the first time that she had actually gone into a court of law. Because as you would remember from previous clips, she was not allowed to practice. So in in the Dagenham, before she went and pleaded for this gentleman in the court of law, she was teaching at Rutgers. So teaching is different and pleading in a court of law is different. I hope that Aisha is here and she would like to say something, but I think the fundamental reality of this, of why these 5 or 6 clips were shown, and I apologize once again for the last clip kind of being expanded a bit, because it had to be for you to be able to understand where we're going. So I think the fundamental reality about workplace harassment is that you will have to, or we will have to actually, all of us, the male part and the female part, both genders, we will have to appreciate that it is no longer possible. And please let me say this once again. I am not in a mood to make a moral argument or a religious argument. I'm talking outside the realm of religion and morality. I'm only talking in the realm of professionalism. It is not possible for daughters now who are qualified, who are doing so well in their professional exams. It will be very, very difficult for their own family, for their spouses to keep them constrained, if I may say so. So if you're going to have diversity at the workplace, it will become extremely important. Amal Saab and Mother Saab and Aisha Beti, it will become extremely important to actually make sure that there is some kind of a regulation in the workplace where you can actually, which can be applied, and where the women and other minorities, as Ishan Saab would say, they can be actually protected. So we now come to the presentation part. The presentation part actually has 2 parts. We talk a bit about the systems which can be installed in order to take out workplace harassment from a professional space. And we also talk about 2 case studies. One of them written by the International Finance Corporation, IFC, which is a Bretton Woods sister, written on the famous Pakistani company Packages Limited. And so when we come to Packages Limited, we'll talk about it. And there's also, I think, a second case study which is very dear to me. And I would like to obviously put in Aisha Beti's comment here, but let me first. So there's a second case study which is actually a female to female harassment in a Pakistani university, starting somewhere in the early part of 2000 and ending in 2010. So I just like to share with you what is happening. So let's first have the slides on what are the laws. So can I have the slides now? And Aisha Beti, thank you. Traditional roles are only due to assumption about the abilities of genders. Absolutely, absolutely. I could not agree more with you on this, Aisha Beti. However, if we wanted to go into a kind of a religious argument, that would be a different argument. And we are in a professional space, so we're going to talk professionalism. So let's go forward. आगे चलेंगे, आगे चले सर, इसको ना दिखाएं, देख ली मैं, आगे चलें, आप आगे चलें, आज यहाँ पे. So पहले तो there is a cause list. Why does the question to be answered is why does workplace harassment take place? So there can be causes in the environment. I mean, there are causes in the environment in this country and in other countries also. And if you wanted me to pick something from the causes in the environment, I would pick actually error in leadership behavior. So my chief cause in environment would be error in leadership behavior. But the leaders are not doing much. They're not doing as much as they should be doing. And you will find that the leaders are doing much when we go to the packages case. However, when we take the university case, you will see that the leadership was impotent. So let's go to the next slide, Bhaivan. In the social system itself, and this is where I will actually take support from my daughter Aisha's comments. The elders, the peer pressure, the social composition of the society actually tells you, well, actually women can't work. It tells you actually, if they're working, if they've come into an organization, well, they're a bad investment. Don't, please, kind of disinvest. Don't put them on a job rail. So that is where I would like to take Aisha's comments actually. in the personal system. So there can actually be an issue from the side of the harasser. And I would pick up balanced personality. So maybe the harasser, I'm not talking about the harassed, but maybe the harasser has been brought up in a situation where he has been told that, you know, female workers are, God forbid, of an inferior quality. Can we go to the next slide? Then the bully, as I was talking about the harasser, the bully himself. So maybe that there is a sociopathic personality, you know. Maybe he has or she has, if we go talk about female to female harassment also, maybe he or she has seen something happening somewhere which has actually made him a sociopathic person. So can there be something in the person who's being bullied? Well, actually, there can be an issue of not being able or not having experienced a environment where there is co-working going on. So maybe the lady who goes into a job or into an organization comes from a background or from a situation where actually co-working and the gender mix is not there. That is what I'm trying to say. So the first point after the movie, I think, which is important is to emphasize that there could be a cause list, as I have narrated. And if you wanted to actually put it within the space of the movie in terms of what happened to Ruth Ginsburg and into the US of 1970, I would actually take you back to the last slide. Probably the social composition of the US. The social composition of the US in 1970, as Ruth Ginsburg told in the court also, was not actually conducive to women lawyers or female workers to come up and take their justified position. So I need to, do a bit of going forward and going backwards so that I can relate this whole thing to movie. So you have to understand the cause list. After the movie, my first learning submission to you would be, please try to make a cause list. Where you're going, where is your country, where is your social setup being placed? And that takes a lot of authority from Betty Aisha's last comment. Can you move forward? So there are laws. There are laws. What is depicted in front of you are 3 laws. They're laws by the United Nations. They're laws by CEDAW. So they're laws. And please allow me to add that there is a parliamentary law in Pakistan which was brought in 2010, and that is the year, very unfortunately, when my university case ends. It was brought in 2010. The problem with Pakistan or with any other middle-income country is you have laws, but where is the implementation? There is no implementation. So for example, if a law is being brought in, and there's a debate right now in Pakistan, I can talk about Pakistan, to actually make sure that there is no violence on women in homes. And there is a hoopla actually going out right now in the country. Why should there be a law? And because, as I said, I do not want to go into the realm of the Islamic Ideology Council or the realm of ideology and morality. So I'm only going to keep to the professional word. I think there's a need to implement the laws. So can we have the next slide, please? So then, the core question. Zishan Saab has left, but we'll send him the recording. The core question is, what types of harassment are kindly making their circles in the market right now? Obviously, we've seen a whole movie on harassment related to sex. Okay? So, if you remember that one clip where she went to this client on the 3rd or the 4th story for a law job, and the way he was looking at her, that probably sums up, the one decent kind of clip that I took out from the movie. That is harassment related to sex. You say, well, actually, you will not work. And I'm going to take undue advantage of you because you are from the opposite gender. So that is harassment related to sex. Can you go forward? So then there can be harassment related to race. Very fine, absolutely. I mean, the best example if you wanted to have a look at harassment related to race, you need to look at apartheid, you need to look at Mr. Nelson Mandela, and you need to read the wonderful, wonderful book the late Nelson Mandela wrote on his life, which is the long walk to freedom. And then there's an excellent movie, Hollywood movie on that. So you must look at it, and you get some idea of what is harassment related to race. So, you know, as Ishan was saying, well, actually, I am in Pakistan. I come from an ethnic group which is not the majority in Pakistan, and so I cannot get a job. So a second type is harassment related to race. I want to be on time, so I'm going to finish on time. Othering, I mean, that is, I do not want to quote any one religion or a sect, but othering is a concept. And othering says that actually in this XYZ company, we are the dominant religion. And when you are the other religion, so please stay in that othering mode. We don't want you. So because we have international audience from Bangladesh and from India also, I would not want to actually go beyond this, but there is definite harassment related to religion, I can tell you. And actually, ask me at age 56, there is definitely harassment related to age. You're too young, you don't have any experience. How can we take you in on this job? So if somebody was really fine tuning into harassment, you would say, well, that is harassment. Or I'm 56 or 57. I cannot, you know, I could be very energetic or whatever, but the fact remains that I could probably not apply for a certain job because they will say, well, Joyce, you are 56, you know. You have probably, by the law of averages, you have, if the retirement age is 65, you have 9 years. Well, if it is 60, you have 4 years. We would not like to put a bet on you. So there is harassment related to age, I tell you. And then very unfortunately, very unfortunately, there is harassment related to disability. I would not want to say anything on this because it's a sensitive issue, but there is harassment related to disability. In my own sweet home, Pakistan, we now have these quotas for our disabled friends, daughters and sons, but there's definitely harassment related to disability. So if I was to flash back, we saw the movie, we looked at the cause list and we have looked at the types that could actually, you know, that could actually tell you actually what is harassment. So before I go to the next slide, so where are we going to go? How to stop it? That's the next question. How to stop it? Can I have the next slide? I mean, much abused, if you may allow me to say, much abused, the leadership paradigm. In my own sweet country also, and other countries in the world also. But I think the issue here is you need to have sensible leadership. In an organization, if you are going to, I would not say eradicate harassment, but if you are going to actually manage harassment, it is obviously very important that we should have a stable leadership. If you look at some of the multilateral organization models, and I've used multilateral organization models intentionally because, you know, you have international workforces and you have people coming from different countries, from different ethnic groups, female, male, and then you have, you know, what have you. So the UN, the Bretton Woods model says that you need a leadership at the top, which has these 6 traits. If you wanted to ask me what are the 2 traits which are extremely important, I would pick up collaboration and commitment. I mean, you could talk about courage also and cognizance and curiosity and whatever, but I would pick up collaboration and commitment. So my first take on how to handle workplace harassment would be you need leadership or you need managers who are collaborative and who are very committed to their workplace. So who are committed to their team. So if there's a team which is an Afrikaner on it, an African on it, a South Asian on it, but you need people who would actually be able to collaborate and to commit to that team. Can I have the next slide, please? So what are you doing there? Or what is the leader doing? Well, the leader is actually taking the team across or building a system in the organization which has fairness, which values employees, which is safe and open, and which empowers employees. basic HR jargon, isn't it? Basic HR jargon. So when I present you the first case study, which is of Packages Limited, you will see how they have done this. I think it's important to know what platforms did they create, and that will give you an idea if you're working for an organization as to what steps can you take. So you need a route map which has a good leadership, and then it has a system, preferably an HR system, which has fairness and respect around it, which values the employees and which actually keeps the team safe, the environment safe and open. Can I have the next slide, please? So, what do? At the top, you have leadership, then you have a path. What is the path studied with? The path is studied with a workforce harassment policy. How will you stop workforce harassment? This is taken directly from FAO, the World Food Organization. I have not quoted any of their policies, but I've taken the framework. Say, define workplace harassment in your document first. Define a platform. And when I say define a platform, I say you need to have something embedded in your HR system which says, actually, you have a complaint, please come to this person, Mrs. So-and-so, or you have a complaint, please register your complaint at such and such IT portal so that we can look after you. So you need to define it, and then you need to have a platform. Finally, you need to have, once a complaint has been received, you need to have an investigation architecture. So straight out of FAO, you hear out the complaint, you counsel the complainant. Obviously, confidentiality is very important. And I think the most important thing is that don't try to be punitive. I think that's bad. If you want to straighten out the complainant and the person against whom the complaint has been lodged, you need to counsel them first. And that is a controversial issue. I would like to, if there are any comments in the end, please do comment. But that's a controversial issue. Whether you're going to be punitive or you're actually going to counsel them and make sure that the thing dies down finally and there is no recurrence. So let's move forward. Move forward, Jagachale. So this is the IFC case study. Actually, the second case study is near to my heart because I was a part of it. But the first case study, I think, is equally important for those of us who might wonder how to build it from the very beginning. Packages Limited is owned by Syed Babar Ali, the gentleman who's also behind Lahore University of Management Sciences, which is Pakistan's pride. So how has he built Packages Limited? How has he built an anti-harassment context in Packages Limited? Well, actually, first of all, they target female universities more than they target male universities. Or let me tell you, when they're picking up people, they target the female population more than they target the male population. Step number one. Step number two, they partner with all the government platforms which are working on the status of women so that they invite them to monitor their own context. That is very important. So it is not possible to keep this harassment genie in constraints if there is no public-private partnership. So that is what Packages Limited is doing. Thirdly, their HR is very, as I said, their HR is gender inclusive. They do a lot of capacity building and training to make sure that the men know how the women feel and the women know how the men feel. Then they have these traditional services that every company would have, pick and drop services, especially for women, ladies and children areas, because if there's a married person, there's a married lady, she has a family, she has young kids, so she has to put them somewhere. And then they actually have this social media platform, and I thought this was very exciting when I read it from the IFC case study. Then they have this social media platform, and on the social media platform, they bring in various discussion forums, both from the male side of the company and from the female side of the company, so that in an open and inclusive way, they can actually discuss workplace harassment without telling anybody. So my penultimate take to you is, you want workplace harassment to be handled and to be cut out at the very beginning, you need to have a system. And that system has to be HR focused. And actually, the public sector or the public sector authorities in your city or in your country have to be on board. And that brings me to the final case study, which is a very sad case study. Can I have the next slide, please? Local Pakistani University, ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting. I mean, this is very, very interesting. I'm not going to take any names. I am not going to tell you what university is this. The only thing that I'm going to tell you is that in this university, there's a department. And the story starts in 1973, which is very, very interesting. The people who built this department, it is now by my watch 5:20. So I'm going to leave you just take another 5 or 6 minutes. So the people who started this department, and I'm not going to tell you actually what they teach there, you see, because then you're going to ask somebody and somebody will know somebody, and that is going to be bad because we do not want to take any names. But we do want to press home the lesson. What happens, unlike Packages Limited, when you don't have a workplace harassment policy, when actually you have built a department on specific interests. So what happens is that this department was built by a particular sect of Muslims. So this is very sad. I mean, I've been a university teacher for 16 years. I've been a civil servant for 14, and I've been a trainer for 20. I mean, in terms of my concurrent work that I've done. But this is very, very interesting that a Muslim sect built a department in a university, and then they actually pulled in a political party so that actually they could control that department of the university. And this happened in 1973. And so the department actually went into the harassment of a number of young women who did not agree with the sect, nor did they agree with the political party which was supporting the sect. But this is very, very interesting. This is very, very interesting. And so the story goes on, and we come to the year 1999. There's this young female who was at one point in time a student of this department, but who did not belong to that sect and to that political party. She goes to the US, does her PhD, comes back, and luckily, now this is very, very interesting. I want you to take this from this training session. I mean, what is the use of having this training session if you cannot take anything out of this? So this young woman belonged to the opposite group when she was a student. Then she went out and she worked and she did her PhD and she came back to her department to serve her own university. And lo and behold, listen to what is coming next. There's another respected lady who's now heading the department, and actually she is from the party which was against the originators of this department. So actually both of these ladies were on the same side when they were in the department. And so this lady comes in, she's selected, she's become the senior faculty, she's a US PhD, and the other respected lady is a PhD from another country, but a very respectable woman, and they start clashing because now this young female who has come into the department, very, very interesting, this young woman who's come into the department has brought in the American ideas, the ideas of fairness, the ideas of saying what is the truth, the ideas of never hiding the truth, the ideas of not actually ever, harassing your own students. But this other lady who was previously in her group is now a changed person. She wants her to indulge into fake grading. She wants her to elevate some students and to punish other students. And this other young lady who's now a full faculty with PhD. So there's now a battle. There's now a battle because I'm very near to this other lady who's come from the US. Obviously, I have to intervene. And so I talk to the Vice Chancellor, I talk to other people because I've been in the civil service, people know me, Alhamdulillah. And my father himself, He's been a senior bureaucrat. So, people know us. So we pull all the strings, but we cannot actually stop the harassment. So this woman who's related to me and who's now being harassed full time, one day she receives a death threat. So my family says, just pull out. We don't need you to do this. But but this is an issue. Those who are harassed obviously make their own decision. So she says, I'm not going to pull out. So she doesn't pull out. And she doesn't pull out. And this is even more interesting. I hope that Badr Saab is still here. I then use some of my contact, and you're going to be very, very surprised. I then go and use some of my contacts in the military hierarchy of Pakistan to make sure that this relative of mine is safe and sound. However, the story, to cut it short, the story is that ultimately this relative of mine has to leave the university because they gang up on her and she has to leave. Very, very sad. Very, very sad. I don't want to tell you. This is very important. I think this is very important. When I was planning this workshop on workplace harassment, I wanted to plan this workshop and I wanted to put in this workshop, and I'm very grateful to all of you who have stayed with the workshop to the very end. I wanted to tell you, you cannot in 2021 and go back and apply values which were valid in 1821. My brothers and sisters, that is not possible. We are working on the professional assumption that our ladies, daughters, wives are going to work. We have to make sure that our daughters, wives, and ladies who are going to work are protected in the workplace. So my final message to you is, as the 2 hours with you end, I am very, very grateful that you actually work with me. And you actually, you were kind enough to look at Ruth Ginsburg. I'm a great fan of late Ruth Ginsburg. If you are going to have a career, I wish you a career like Ruth Ginsburg. Now let me give the Pakistani name. If you are having a career, if you wanted to have a career in Pakistan, I would want you to have a career like Shamim Rahman of the Urangi Project. But if you look at her on the net, Razaul Kareem, Aisha is saying, please mute your mic, son or brother or whatever. So wonderful. But let me in the end repeat my argument. It is not possible in the Bangladesh of Pakistan, in the Bangladesh of 2021 or Pakistan of 2021 or any other country or Dubai of 2021 from where Zishan was talking to me. It is not possible to stop bright young ladies from working. So if it is not possible and neither is it desirable, it is very important. Point number one, you need to have good leadership which is completely cognizant of the fact that there are females and there is diversity in the workforce. It is therefore also very important that you should have laws, and it is also very important that they should be implemented. And so we need to go more the packages way than to go the university way, where a female was harassed. And I can tell you very tragically that at this point in time, as I talk to you, she's not well because of what has happened to her when she came back from the US to work here. So please listen to an old man. You want to do something. अब मैं थोड़ा सा उर्दू बोलना चाहता हूँ. ये नहीं हो सकता that you live in Rome and you do something that you do in Karachi. If you live in Rome, please do things as you would do in Rome. So with this, I ask for forgivenesses for any wrong that has been done in the last 2 hours. Aspire is a company committed to its trainees. We have nothing to show but our work and our emotions and our enthusiasm for you. That is why we say Aspire's nest is the best. I now leave you with my team. They will talk you through to the end. And if any of you want the certificates, there's a flat rule on it. And Daniel Shah and Ali Shah will talk to you about it. I bless you wherever you are, whether you're in Bangladesh or in Dubai or in Pakistan and in various cities of Pakistan. I bless you, and as elder, I pray for you that you have a great Eid al-Azha coming up and that we remain safe from this COVID virus that has completely haunted the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. मैं चाय पिला दूँ, चाय पी के जानी आप ले जाए, सही है आपका इधर है अभी, चलिए आइए, उसी के बाद फिर